In this short PowerPoint, we're going to take a brief look at the political relationships between settlements and the environment. We're going to focus on this idea we've been talking about of sustainability and a few of the things that drive decision making. While we're going through this, just keep in consideration their resources are limited and therefore they must be protected. When countries don't have adequate resources, they search for them in other locations. They can do this either through trade or by force, such as territorial acquisitions. As governments attempt to govern resources, they must consider a variety of viewpoints. Sustainable development is a critical concern in these decisions in order to ensure our future generations will have resource availability as well. Humans are driven to acquire territories with vast resources for economic, social, political, and environmental reasons. Acquiring new territories and resources can result in wealth and power, but it can also lead to conflict, war, and political disputes. Below are just a couple of examples of territories that have been acquired by other lands, and/or also some boundary disputes. Many times countries are fighting between one another because they both claim the same land area. The first one right there, the colonization of the Americas. We know that a lot of these European nations came over to the Americas in the 1500s and 1600s and claimed land driven by they're motivated for the resources that were over here, and so they could acquire wealth. In the 1800s, we had the Berlin Conference, is when European powers divided up and colonized Africa again because they wanted more resources for Europe and new markets. After Texas gained its independence from Mexico for years afterwards, there was still a dispute about where exactly Mexico ended and Texas began. Both sides claimed that the area here we see in green between Texas and Mexico, and they fought for control over that region. Another example of a country invading another one for resources, Iraq invaded Kuwait for their oil reserves. Luckily, America did come to their aid and liberated Kuwait from the Iraqi forces. And then, as we studied in the case study earlier, we had the border dispute there in Sudan due to the location of the oil reserves, and we had the conflict there between the South Sudanese and Sudan. We talked a little bit about this idea of sustainability, and then we talked about the importance of resources and how countries, when they don't have these countries, they seek them out in other areas, either through trade or territorial acquisitions. Now we're going to kind of skip on over to something different, but this is this idea of decision making. The role of government leaders. An important role of government leaders is to make decisions that take into consideration different points of view and that are based on facts and that promote sustainability. For example, President Obama just took action to cut the federal government's carbon pollution emissions by 40% over 10 years. And this is because it would save taxpayers up to $18 billion in energy costs, and it also increases the share of electricity the federal government uses from renewable resources to 30%. This is an example of a decision made by a government leader that promoted sustainability. So in this unit, in addition to the sustainability and the resources, renewable, non-renewable, we've also talked about this decision making on a few occasions. And decisions are made at all different levels: local, state, national, international. And these decisions are all based on various points of view and often result in debate and at times conflict. I mentioned a while ago some of these decisions are local decisions. This is like more immediate to your surroundings, such as school board decisions like the budget or how many people they're hiring or not hiring, contracts. Other local decisions might be something like city curfews. State level decisions are different. That would be something more like water management issues. Perhaps one state is changing their graduation requirements. It could also be speed limits. Those are also set by state laws. National decisions might be in relation to Issues like immigration reform, abortion, voting age, marriage laws, and then international decisions. An example would be like joining different trade organizations such as NAFTA here, the Quito Treaty, that was about environmental concerns, and NATO was a military alliance. But those are decisions that we make on an international level as far as our participation with other countries. Another thing that influences decision making is these ideas behind nationalism and patriotism. Patriotism is loyalty and support for one's country. It's the belief that citizens should obey their country's laws and rally to its defense. People's attitudes often differ about the value of patriotism. Some acts of patriotism produce great admiration even among foreigners. For example, many people admire those Dutch soldiers who died in an attempt to halt the Nazi army from invading the Netherlands in 1940. Nationalism is the belief that each people or ethnic group, known as a nation, should have its own government and nation state. In an established nation states, nationalism is often the belief that one's country is among the very best countries in the world. Some nationalists feel their nation is so superior that they have the right to take territory from or to even rule over others. Like other cultural beliefs, patriotism and nationalism can have profound effects on government policies and decision making. For example, if a country is attacked, patriotic feelings will encourage its people to defend themselves against the aggressor. Nationalist feelings may lead a country to commit acts of aggression, such as attacking weaker neighbors or seizing overseas colonies.